And welcome on in to a Tuesday, November 25th. By the way, Jay Harper, thank you for filling in. Joan Jones still sick this morning, so we're hoping that she is back before Thanksgiving. But if not, she has a stomach bug or something like that, and so we're hoping that she does return tomorrow. But if you want to drop Joan a note, feel free to do that on her social media. I guess, and Jay, you had the same thing, bit of a stomach bug.
Yeah, I had. I was down for the count on Sunday, and I was asked to fill in for Joan yesterday morning. I'm like, dude, I can't. I'm not up to it, but feeling better today, so here I am.
Everybody started asking me how I was feeling, and I'm like, why are you asking? It's like, I guess there's a little something going around the radio station, so. Yep. Anyway, we do have a lot of news. Thank you, Jay, for being here. Thank you, Sam, for being here as well. We do have wet roadways, and as Jay Harper just mentioned, it does continue to rain across Middle Tennessee. I'm going to get into, coming up at 5:35, I'm going to get into how the numbers were last night or yesterday for the Nashville rescue mission. The great news is we hit our goal, so we're going to talk about that at 5:35. There's a lot of things I do want to talk about and get to because I basically, with the rescue mission, as you folks know, we don't do politics during that broadcast, and so I've basically got about 4 days of news to cover, so let's get right to it. Aftyn Behn, of course, everybody knows, running in the 7th. Here's, and hey, Sam, let's do this real quick. Omaha. Let's do a Daily Dan poll. Because I don't know if you folks noticed, but Aftyn, over the last 4 days, she has had a terrible week. She was on I've got the audio and everything, and so I'm going to assume that because people who listen to WTN, you folks are up on things. So I'm going to get through all of the train wreckery that has been Aftyn Behn's last 4 days as she runs for the 7th against Matt Van Epps. But here's the Daily Dan poll. Sam, do you believe that all of the, you're going to have to figure out a way to say it, all of the jackassery that we've heard from Aftyn Behn over the last, 4 days, all of these old videos are now coming to light. All of these old podcasts are now coming to light. And honestly, the more that we hear from Aftyn Behn, I actually said on social media, please, Aftyn, keep talking, because the more you speak, the nuttier you sound. But here's the thing, and again, you figure out how to word it, Sam. Do you think that all that we're finding out about Aftyn Behn will actually impact the 7th congressional race? Case in point, I've got some audio and some video. She was on, MS Now? Is that what it is, Jay? MS Now? It used to be MSNBC. Now it's MS Now?
That's correct, yes.
So she was
on there, and they actually, surprisingly, kind of grilled her a bit.
She did, Jay. I've got the audio. Listen to this.
Representative, in 2020, you made some tweets that have since been deleted that were very critical of police. You said in those since deleted tweets that the Metropolitan Nashville Police Department should be dissolved. Another cheered on a teachers union saying that defund the police should be a requirement for schools reopening. And another saying good morning, especially to the 54% of Americans that believe burning down a police station is justified. 2020 was obviously a very fraught year. Do you still stand by those comments? And if not, is there anything you want to clarify?
Now, one of the things you could say is this is really kind of a layup question because everything, I'm going to let her answer, but it's a layup question in the sense that the Democrats these days, they're right in line with that kind of thinking. So why it is that she would delete those tweets, I really don't know.
I'm not going to engage in cable news talking points, but what I will say is that, our communities need solutions. We need local people deciding, solving local problems with local solutions. And that's not the overreach of a federal government or state government of which we are dealing with in Nashville and our cities across the state of Tennessee.
So you don't want to clarify whether you still believe that the police should be defunded?
Once again, I don't remember these tweets, but what I'm saying is that
I'm not asking you if you remember. What is your position today? How's that?
I mean, it's not that hard, Aftyn. It's not that hard. What is your policy on defunding the police? And it's interesting if you're watching on YouTube. She has this as this line of questioning continues. She's sort of looking. I don't know. When you're trying to, you probably see me do this all the time, where I'm like my eyes are going up looking at the sky, trying to figure out, oh, my Lord, what the hell am I going to say to this? But this is a layup question. This is an easy question. Aftyn, I thought you were a proud progressive. And as such, you support defunding the police. So I don't understand why she's hiding or obfuscating what her actual opinion is
on this issue.
I mean, I'm here to talk about my race, which is in literally 9 days.
Wow. I mean, Aftyn Behn. So she wouldn't clarify where she is on defunding the police. She was asked to explain the tweets. She couldn't. This line of questioning, as Jay pointed out, and I've got in my notes, pretty hardcore coming from what used to be MSNBC. But I think this is one of those moments. And by the way, you can see all of the videos that I'm playing this morning on my social media. Follow me on X at Dan Mandis Show. But here's what I would say is that this is something that both sides are going to take notice of. The left, because she wouldn't say whether or not she wanted to defund the police. I mean, isn't that basic among her ilk these days, Aftyn Behn? Isn't that basic among her ilk? With conservatives, it's like, what do conservatives stand for? Conservatives stand for, freedom, border security, law and order, those kinds of things, low taxes, small government, all that kind of stuff. Well, for Democrats, what do they stand for? They stand for defunding the police and, killing as many babies as you possibly can and so forth. And so why it is that she won't say what her position is, I think that could very possibly ding her on the left. Because she wouldn't say that she actually wanted to defund the police. Now, of course, it is alarming for the right as well because she refused to say that she would not defund the police. So I'm feeling, man, like she's not ready for prime time.
Not in the slightest.
Not in the slightest. As far as the burning down of the police station reference, if you heard the whole thing, the time of that tweet was around the George Floyd riots. Now, you'll recall, I think it was in Oregon, where Antifa tried to burn down or did burn down a police station there with police officers inside. So here's my question. Because everybody knows that she's a radical. Everybody knows that she's an activist. Does she still stand for all of this stuff? And why is it that she would delete these tweets? Like I'm truly perplexed because, and I was flabbergasted when I saw this video on MSNBC because it doesn't make any sense why it is that she would run from these past tweets because all of this aligned perfectly with the Democrat Party of today, the radicals of today. So I don't know why she's being evasive. I mean, being an activist is her brand. And I also, by the way, I don't know if you noticed that. Notice this. I also love how she talks about how she just wants to talk about her campaign. Well, isn't her campaign, her policies, and her beliefs, and what she believes? Well, yeah, that's when she tells MS Now that she just wants to talk about her campaign. Well, a campaign isn't necessarily simply just talking points about Orange Man bad and the racist Republicans in the state legislature and how bad the state of Tennessee is. No, it is also about your policies. So what kind of Democrat or progressive is afraid to say whether or not she'd defund the police? I just think the whole thing is weird. And she wasn't ready for the question. That's why when I say, well, she's not ready for prime time, the reason she's not ready for prime time is because that was a easy layup softball question. And she couldn't hack. So in addition to being a clear progressive, although, again, I don't know why she's running from it, but whatever. Over the last several days, as I mentioned, there's all of these videos that have come out of Aftyn Behn. Now, you know what I love? I love that all the people on the left, you know what the people on the left are saying? Oh, the Republicans are finally paying attention to Aftyn Behn. I wonder why. Well, it's because it would appear that this race for the 7th Congressional District, because the left is so activated, there are some that are saying that this race is closer than the Republicans would want. And so now, okay, let's take a closer look at Aftyn Behn and make sure that the people of the 7th Congressional District know what they're getting, Republicans, if you don't come out to vote. So there's this video. I actually openly laughed at this. If you're not watching on Super Talk TV, I'm sorry, but I'm going to describe for you what's happening. This is around 2019. The Daily Caller put this out, where Aftyn Behn runs, this is when she was an activist, runs, barnstorms into Governor Lee's office. They're dragging her out. She's screaming like a skinned cat. And now she's crying. Aww.
Sir, that was completely unnecessary.
So you got these people with her. Sir, this security. That was completely unnecessary. So if you can't see it, here's what was going on. As an activist, she finds her way to Governor Lee's office. The door is open, and she goes sprinting into the office. And so the big burly security guards grab her by the arms and drag her out, and you can hear her. Ah! It's like, you know what? FAFO. Is there another word I can use for F? Or am I going to have to start saying MAFO? Mess around and find out. Anyway, FAFO. And so if you are going to storm a governor's office, well, then what do you think is going to happen? And so people are, of course, calling her a psycho. I feel like she's just a little psycho.
Yeah, no.
Like, I think she's just a little psycho. Is she, again, as she runs into the governor's office, dragging her out, screaming. I think there's a lot of a lot of play, like not cosplay, but it's a lot of theater. Thank you, political theater.
Yeah.
Where she is on her knees, crying. There's some other woman yelling at the security. You know what? If you storm a governor's office, you're lucky your ass wasn't shot.
Yeah.
And she's sitting there crying on the floor.
I half expect to hear her going, "How dare you?"
No. Yes. And so now the camera, of course, got people of her ilk videoing the whole thing, and she's on her knees crying on the Capitol floor.
I can almost tell when someone's parents didn't spank them.
Oh, she is, and she's crying. She's crying right there in the middle of the state capitol.
Tammy in the YouTube chat has a suggestion. Call it "Fool Around and Find Out."
Thank you, Tammy. Fool around and find out. We love Tammy. Is that the texter Tammy? Because we have prolific texter Tammy as well. Anyway, not sure if it's the same person or not. And you know what? We're 21 minutes into the show. I've only played like 2 of 6 or 7. And I'm not even going down the road of, the previous videos that we've talked about with Aftyn Behn. So I think that I do believe that she is just, we're seeing how radical she is. But here's the thing. Do you think any of this will have any bearing on the progressive support for Aftyn Behn? So it's my hope that by showing these things, that this will inspire the people of the 7th Congressional District to come out and vote for Matt Van Epps. And some people are complaining about Matt Van Epps. I don't necessarily understand what the problem is, but whatever. If I would say it this way, if Van Epps just isn't really doing it for you, okay, well then don't vote for Van Epps, vote against Aftyn Behn. Because is this really the kind of psycho that you want representing the 7th Congressional District?
I love how they use it against her. She's got that bite of her going, "I'm a very radical person." So the hope being that the progressives that are more middle of the road would go, is this who you want representing you in the state of Tennessee?
Yeah.
Someone who's willing to charge the governor's office over, did they even mention what she was being an activist for when that happened?
You know, the other thing that we talk about is a great point. The other thing that we talk about is how she has come out and she said, and Jay, I know that you heard this audio too, where she comes out and she says that she hates the state of Tennessee. Well, here's another indicator of that. She was on yet another podcast where she talks about how her mother called Tennessee godforsaken East Tennessee.
And I remember taking my parents out to eat and telling them I want to get into Tennessee politics. And my mom started sobbing at the table. And she said, "You're never supposed to move back to godforsaken East Tennessee."
All right. So I don't know. I don't know what's going on in that house of theirs. But from what people have said that family has money. I don't know, and I don't care because I don't hold a lack of money against people, and I don't hold an abundance of money against people. If people are successful, bless your heart, and I don't mean that in the snarky Southern way. I'm glad for your success. But whatever issue Aftyn Behn and her family, because I looked it up, and as far as I can tell, they still live in Knoxville. We talked about how Aftyn Behn is from Knoxville. And as far as I can tell, they still live in Knoxville unless anybody knows anything differently. Why do they hate Tennessee so much? That's what I don't understand. You bought a home, you built wealth, I would say to Aftyn Behn's parents, in Tennessee. And so I don't really understand the hostility. I mean, good Lord, if you've got money, go move somewhere else.
Well, it's affordable and it's safe, but it's not progressive enough, Dan.
Yeah, I know. Anyway, so it is 5:24 on Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. There's a lot more. I'm not going to do all Aftyn all morning long, but there's a lot of just bizarre stuff that's out there. And the question is, okay, so do you think this will impact her run for the 7th Congressional District? How did we frame this for the YouTube chat? If you go over to YouTube, you watch us on YouTube, you can partake in the chat over there, which we love the YouTube chat, folks. But we also have the Daily Dan poll. So how did you frame the Daily Dan poll, and what are people saying so far?
Do you believe the bovine scatology about Aftyn will impact the congressional race? 55% saying yes, 45% saying no.
See, that's the thing. I think that it could go either way. I think that her refusing to say that she wanted to defund the police could hurt her on the left. But they are so infused with Orange Man bad that they may just not care. They want to see this seat flipped. Anybody but a Republican is where they are right now. So hopefully the Republicans are inspired to come out and vote in the special election to replace Mark Green, 7th Congressional District. So yesterday's rescue mission, $218,935 was donated. That's going to buy 70,397 meals. So that is incredible. That went well beyond what our goal was. And thanks to you folks again, all day long broadcasts as we do every single year. And folks like you, maybe it was you, WTN listeners, $218,935. Let's call it $219,000 and 70,397 meals. That is huge, and thank you very much. We very much appreciate it. And every time we do this, I'm always stunned at the generosity of you folks. And so I know that all of the other hosts as well, Chris and Chad and Matt, will all be saying thank you for helping us out and helping us help the rescue mission. We all do it collectively as a family. And again, we very much appreciate it. And I'm looking forward to doing it again next year, 5:38 on Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. A couple of days before Thanksgiving. You know what's interesting is there's a lot of really interesting news stories out there. Do you believe? This is a question for you, Sam, and this is a question for you, Jay. Because I was actually a little surprised by this, but Harry Enton is out there saying that the Donald Trump support within the Republican Party is still pretty good. Now, I'm going to play this audio for you, and the narrative has been that the Republican Party is splintered. And I think that we all know that the Republican Party right now is splintered. You've got Marjorie Taylor Greene and America First versus Donald Trump and, of course, MAGA. So Harry Enton is talking about, and I think this is really interesting, Harry Enton is talking about how for the Republicans, they are still very much supportive of Donald Trump. So let me hold on. I got two pieces of audio playing. I hate when this happens. So give me 1 second and I can track it down. This drives me absolutely crazy. I don't know. Oh, you know what it is? I was looking, you know what I'm hearing in my headphones? Me. Is this going to be one of those days? All right, here we go. This is Harry Enton, and he's talking about how the Republicans are still supportive of Donald Trump. Actually, part of what he's saying is that the Republicans are more supportive of Donald Trump than the Democrats were of Barack Obama, which I thought was interesting. And we may do a Daily Dan poll here on this in a little bit. But this is Harry Enton and what he is saying about the Republican support of Donald Trump. Listen.
So is the president losing Republicans?
No. Look, this is still Donald Trump's Republican Party, and we can see it here. It's like a rock, to quote Bob Seger. I mean, take a look here. Republicans who approve of Trump. 6 months ago, it was 87%. Now, well, hello, it's the same number. It's 87%. He has not lost any support among Republicans compared to 6 months ago.
Do you think that's true? You think that's true, Sam? You think that's true, Jay? I find that a little hard to believe.
Yeah, I agree. I think that the party, as you have said, is a bit splintered. And I think he's probably lost a step or two.
But I can say this, and I'd love to know your opinion on the super text line. We can have disagreements as a party, yet still support the president, right? So I can disagree with him on H-1B visas. I can disagree with him on whatever it might be. There was a story out over the last couple of days where he was going to come out with a health care plan that extended the Obamacare subsidies for 2 years with some eligibility restrictions. So we can disagree on things, but still support the president because for a lot of us, we're not simply one issue voters. We can have a disagreement with him and still support him. I don't know. Sam, what do you think? And then I'll get back to the audio.
I think it's got to be a little inaccurate. I mean,
you think so, Harry Enton?
I think just to, probably polled the same group of people. Just the 50-year mortgages, the 15-year car loans, those are things that are just nonsensical, for being honest. And I don't know how that doesn't affect one's approval rating of the president.
All right, so let's do this. All right, so real quick, we did a Daily Dan poll, and now we're going to change the Daily Dan poll. So let's go ahead, and the previous Daily Dan poll for the first 42 minutes of the radio broadcast was, do you think all of this insanity will impact the 7th congressional race with Aftyn Behn? And it was actually kind of split, right?
Yeah, 52% saying yes, all of the bovine scatology about Aftyn will impact the race. 48% saying no.
All right, so let's change that now, because I do find this interesting. So let's change that now to, do you believe, I don't want to do you still support Donald Trump? What I want to do is, do you believe that Donald Trump's support, parentheses, 87%, do you believe that Donald Trump's support, 87%, is the same as it was, 6 months ago as compared to now? Donald Trump has accomplished a lot. See, that's the challenge that we have right now, is we have a president who has accomplished a lot, despite the fact that he has been blasted at every turn when it comes to everything that he's wanted to do, legally, from tariffs to, illegal immigration to mass deportations. He has been roadblocked every step of the way by the Democrats and their activist judges. So I think there is a certain understanding of that as well. My issue with President Trump, because I'm willing to accept that we are going to have some differences as a party. What I can't get over, and this was on Friday, so this is going to go back a couple of days, and I don't have the audio or anything like that, but I'm just going to state an observation that really did bother me on Friday. What bothered me on Friday was Donald Trump, while he was yucking it up with Zoran Mamdani in the Oval Office, he was putting Marjorie Taylor Greene, one of his biggest all-time supporters, on full blast. So it was a little bizarre. And I sort of understand what's going on with Trump, where with Mamdani, he wants New York to be successful. I don't think he necessarily wants Mamdani's policies to be successful, but I think that ultimately President Trump wants what's best for New York. But how he and Mamdani are going to be able to work together after Mamdani literally called him a fascist. And Trump is yucking it up in the Oval Office with a communist. And it seemed a little, to be perfectly candid, it just seemed unseemly. Because he was blasting Marjorie Taylor Greene and basically saying that he would support or endorse anyone other than Marjorie Taylor Greene. So then she ultimately ends up leaving, announcing that she is going to resign from Congress. And I don't know. I thought that it was a really sad day. Then he sort of backpedaled a little bit and said, me and Marjorie Taylor Greene, the president said on the socials, me and Marjorie Taylor Greene, we have philosophical or political differences, but I think he said she's still a nice person. Whatever. He said that it would be better for the country if she was out of Congress. So I don't know. I didn't like that. I felt like there's a lot of people that have said over the years that Donald Trump, it's like one-way loyalty. He demands loyalty from people, but he doesn't give loyalty in return. But I also would remind you folks, and this is where I'm going to argue with myself, that Marjorie Taylor Greene is the one that started it. I mean, she is the one that went on The View. She is the one that went on CNN. She is the one that went on the network shows and started blasting Donald Trump. And so, I mean, what do we always say about President Trump, right? You hit him, he's going to hit you 6 times harder. And so I think that it was almost like on Friday, it just felt a little bit like opposite day. And I like Marjorie Taylor Greene. A lot of people believe, and I believe that Marjorie Taylor Greene, she's either going to run for the Senate in Georgia or she's going to run for the presidency. Matter of fact, the Poly Market, I think I saw the Poly Market was, can you look that up for me real quick, Sam? The Poly Market was, the people that bet on who's going to run for president, they bet on politics. Poly Market for Marjorie Taylor Greene went up a lot as far as whether or not she was going to run for the presidency. So it did just feel weird. President Trump yucking it up with Mamdani and at the same time going after Marjorie Taylor Greene, one of his biggest supporters, and I think all time. And Marjorie Taylor Greene, I believe, one of his original supporters. Here's more from Harry Enton, though, and whether or not you believe Donald Trump has the same approval rating 6 months ago as today at 87%.
As I said at the beginning, he's like a rock. He's like a rock. The Republican base is sticking by Donald Trump at this point in time.
It really is interesting to watch his overall approval rating go down, 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 but see this be completely constant here.
It is among independents. It is not among Republicans.
Okay.
Yep, exactly. And that's what I was going to say. And just so you know, I'm listening to this for the first time. So if independents are moving away from Donald Trump, well, then that should set alarm bells for everyone heading into the midterm elections. He's not running for re-election, obviously, in 2028. I don't believe that he is. I don't believe that he's going to try. But bottom line is that if independents are disapproving of Donald Trump, that is alarming for 2026, the midterm elections, and obviously we'll have to see where that goes for the presidential election in 2028.
So how does this compare to past presidents in a second term?
Yeah, okay. I think this gives the game away, right? Which is Donald Trump, if you look at 21st century presidents, own party approval at this point in term 2. Who leads the pack? It's Donald John Trump.
Yep, you got W at 78%. At this point in term number 2, you've got George W. Bush at 78%, Barack Obama at 78%, and Donald Trump, Republican Party support, is at 87%.
See, and I didn't think, by saying it would be off that we're talking it should be down with Obama and Bush, but for it to be identically 87, maybe more like 84, 85.
Okay.
Just a couple of things, because as we've talked about somewhat off air, like the winning streak has kind of run out in the last month and a half.
He has run into some narrative and some policy idea failures. He has. That H-1B visa thing, that is a big issue amongst America First folks. And I mean, unfortunately, I'm just going to tell you, I see both sides on this one. But I think that if the president, when he came out, and I played the audio, this was a few days ago, the president came out and he said that the smart ones agree with me, essentially saying that you're stupid if you disagree with him on H-1B visas. And I don't like that. Yeah. I think that he, at times, and Donald Trump, love him, voted for him, not 3 times, but 6 times. We're talking about primaries as well. And so we can have a policy disagreement without insulting the intelligence of people that disagree with you.
Yeah.
And that, I can forgive policy disagreements, but I don't want to be disrespected by a guy who not only have I supported, but me and many of my friends and many of you people listening, we have lost relationships because of our support for Donald Trump. We've lost relationships. People have lost jobs. They've lost friends. They've lost relationships. They've lost family members. Please, Donald Trump, don't call us dumb or stupid because of a policy disagreement.
Yeah. So, by the way, he's got the Turkey pardoning coming up, right?
Yes.
I've already heard rumblings that a federal judge is going to block it.
Good, Sam. Here's more.
87% of Republicans approve of Donald John Trump. You go back to 2013, 78% of Democrats supported Barack Obama, and it was 78% of Republicans who supported George W. Bush back in 2005 at this point. So Donald Trump has the biggest highest own party approval of any president who served their entire second term in the 21st century.
You could look at this one of two ways. You could say, obviously, he's doing way better than past presidents. Or you could say, there is still room to settle. If there is a reversion to the mean here, if that does fall further, that could chip into his overall approval rating. Okay, Marjorie Taylor Greene resigning from Congress in January. One of the concerns is that Donald Trump backed someone in a primary against her. How has Donald Trump done in his congressional endorsements?
When you go up against Donald Trump, you're going up against a buzzsaw, because Donald Trump's endorsement record is, it's hard to find anyone else who beats it. Times Trump endorsees won GOP primaries. In 2020, it was 98%. 2022, it was 95%. In 2024, it was 96%. And I will note, the majority of times that Donald Trump backed a challenger to an incumbent like Marjorie Taylor Greene, that challenger won a majority of the time. The bottom line is this. There was a real reason why Marjorie Taylor Greene decided, you know what, it's not worth the fight, because more times than not, when you go up against Donald Trump in a Republican primary, you lose.
Not just more.
Love how animated he gets.
I really like Harry Enton, and he is like a nerd's nerd, man. Did you look at the poly market on Marjorie Taylor Greene? And by the way, people on the super text line are getting mad at me because they think I'm criticizing Donald Trump.
Oh.
Okay.
It's almost like what this country was founded on, the ability to question the authority.
Yeah, and here's the deal. All I'm saying is that I, number one, I don't like when he disparages his supporters. Number two, I do have some policy differences with him, and I spent 4 years banging on Joe Biden and 8 years banging on one Barack Obama when we had policy disagreements, and of course, going back even further with yours truly. So, I mean, we're going to have disagreements. I mean, we don't. I want to make sure everybody understands, right? We don't have a king, right? So you can't just sit here and say that everything that Donald Trump does is going to turn to gold, because it doesn't. We're going to have disagreements, and that's just the way that it goes. And it doesn't mean that I've stopped supporting Donald Trump. And certainly when you look at the vast amount of victories that he's had, not only in the first term, but also here in the second term, he's done a lot of good things. There's some things we disagree with as well. So what are they saying on the poly market?
So on the numbers, Marjorie Taylor Greene has got a 5% chance of winning the nomination. That puts her tied for Donald Trump, above Tucker Carlson and Ron DeSantis and below Marco Rubio. J.D. Vance is far and away at 55%, the likely nominee. And then probability of her even running, 16% chance that she even runs, 84% with no.
See, I think she wants to be governor. I think that she wants to be governor. Brian Kemp is termed out. So I think that Marjorie Taylor Greene wants to be governor. I don't know how popular she is in Georgia. Like, I have no idea. So whether or not, and I also don't know if with President Trump calling her out and saying he would support any primary challenger against Marjorie Taylor Greene, I don't necessarily know if that would have had an impact in her district, because I do know that she's popular in her district. However, this radical change that has taken place with Marjorie Taylor Greene, it's only been in the past, 3-4 weeks?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean,
27% favorable polling within her own state.
27% favorable in the state of Georgia.
Yeah.
Well, that's not very good.
No.
When was that polling done? I'm curious.
January of this year.
Okay, so then here's the question, right? So now that she is trying to moderate her stance, what would her polling be like more recently? Because that's like a year ago, almost a year ago. You're saying January of 2024, or 2025. So, all right, well, we'll see what happens. Anyway, so I believe that Donald Trump is still, despite the policy differences, I still believe that Donald Trump is extremely popular within the Republican Party.